Okay, welcome to the Cardmarket studio. We're back from the New Year's, and Pioneer being the new hot stuff that all the podcasts are talking about. Everyone's kind of returning to bringing up as a topic. Even SCG said that Pioneer would now be one of the major staple formats for their tournaments. We decided we're going to delve over, look for 5 decks that cost under €50, and present them to you so you can potentially bring them to your FNM or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, effectiveness is what we're after today, and that got me thinking, what is the best win percentage you can get per euro spent? And that got me to the conclusion that there's only one answer, which is a deck made up of like 1,000 basic lands, because
you can't even shuffle that.
Okay, then let's do an amount that you can shuffle, but that's still unbeatable by mill.
Okay.
And so you won't spend anything on it because you can get basic lands for very, very little cost. Let's assume it's almost zero that cost.
Okay, yeah, you can just walk up to your local game store and ask for all their basics, and usually or just pretend you're drafting.
Or you go to Grand Prix or something once they return. You have your basics. So the cost is almost zero, like very, very, very close to zero. So as long as you have any win percentage at all, your win percentage per euro spent is infinite.
Okay, for those who are not a robot, we have 5 decks that actually are enjoyable to play.
Yes, but unfortunately none of them can compete with the 1,000 basic lands.
Please don't play 1,000 basic lands. No, I do assure you it's under €50.
So what are we after today,
we are after bringing decks that will actually not get your opponent to leave if they're mill. We have 5 decks. They're quite exciting. Just before we get into them, please, if you do like the content, and if you're coming back and being like, Carl, yeah, I haven't done any Pioneer recently, we are going to be doing so much Pioneer. So please stick around, sub if you haven't. If you do sub, we promise we'll call Netflix and tell them to put the Russo brothers back on the Netflix MTG show.
That was wild, Carl.
But let's begin with this one deck that I am actually super excited to find on the internet, because you can find this for €45.33. And this one, Pioneer first started, was one of the bad guys, and then kind of disappeared. Especially now with all the graveyard hate people are packing for Phoenix. But this is Esper Soulflayer. You've got 3 colors, so of course your mana is not great because you're trying to hit a bunch of blue pips in the beginning and then double black to play Soulflayer.
Yeah, Soulflayer.
Do you remember this deck?
I don't remember the Pioneer version of it, but I do remember the card Soulflayer coming out and people going wild on it. In Modern, like in Dredge, there were some Dredge decks that like tried to build a haste, double strike, lifelink menace.
You actually succeed here because forever you had Zapalta, you know, the giant flying dinosaur. It's like a pterodactyl, but bigger, who would give you, wait, let's see, Flying, Double Strike, Vigilant, Trample, and most importantly, Indestructible. Yeah. We also have Stripe Riverwinder, which mainly just gives a hexproof. But now you have the placeholder name card that came out of the D&D set that just seems like the head of a Wikipedia article, Adult Gold Dragon, which does give you haste and lifelink.
Which, that's a very
super important
good combination of missing.
It usually couldn't attack right away, or it would have hexproof, but it wouldn't gain you life, so someone playing aggro or burn could just kind of go around you, and you're not packing a lot of removal.
Yeah, you've got to combine double strike and lifelink against those decks, because otherwise you're going to be dead very quickly.
So if you do want to just cheese out some wins against people that aren't packing graveyard hate, most people just can't beat a 4/4 double strike haste lifelink indestructible. Yeah,
just everything.
So that is deck number 1. Do you have a spicy list for us?
I do have a spicy list. Actually, I wouldn't call it the spice, but it is certainly on the effectiveness scale rather high up there. Do you remember Ikoria Standard? Like Ikoria came out, and then Standard was kind of weird because cycling was.
Cycling. I remember Ikoria Draft. Where all I do is cycle. Yeah,
I'm going to play 10 basic lands and a bunch of cyclers. So that's
off-color cyclist.
That's what you're doing here. You're basically playing the standard cycling deck with the Foxes, Flourishing Fox, and all the healers. You know, all the cycling synergies, which you expect. They're all from Ikoria because no other set provided you cycling synergy, except there's one exception, one major improvement that you do get. It's Hollow One.
Oh yeah! Former modern staple, Hollow One!
Yeah, now kind of modern irrelevant.
yeah.
But former modern staple Hollow One is making a return in Pioneer in the cycling deck because it is a cycling card. It rewards you for cycling.
So you get it for free. So because that deck really, because it has to play Solar Flare. No, what's the name of the card?
It's Zenith Flare.
Zenith Flare, almost there. It has to play Zenith Flare for enough damage, which you usually need to have that pressure earlier on with the Fox. So playing a 4/4 for free usually gets you there.
It kind of adds to that little beatdown plan at the start of the game where you're almost never going to deliver all the damage via beatdown with Flourishing Foxes and Hollow Ones, but it adds to that angle, and you won't pass up a free 4/4 on turn 3.
And once again, if your store is organizing Pioneer FNMs and you want to go with a deck that if people just didn't bring the right sideboard hate or aren't playing the right cards, it's really, really hard for fair decks to beat that deck.
Yep, and most of the deck is made up of cheap commons. Commons and uncommons. Nobody needs Flourishing Foxes these days. They're cheap as hell. Still, this deck, a tiny bit above 50.
Oh no, have we cheated?
You have to forgive me, Carl. It's 56 euros.
You're gonna have to maybe do some trading if you want it for 50 euros.
Some trading, or just don't speak as clear. Like it's 56 euros.
Yeah, 50 years.
Something like that.
56.
One more aspect I want to discuss about this deck is that sideboard cards pack more punch for being a sideboard card in this deck because you find them so easily.
Oh yeah, because you're just cycling and cycling. That's why this deck is so consistent.
Yeah, you do find your sideboard hate cards much more easily with this deck, so that's kind of a neat aspect. It's not what makes this deck powerful, but keep that in mind when playing the games.
Okay, well, I've got another really, really good one. If you want to play fast matches, you play Burrow Cycling. But if you're ever sitting there thinking, I wish I spent more time playing Magic, well, you can with this one because the games last a decade. So I have Orzhov Doom Foretold. Now, this one doesn't play the classic one with Dance of the Mance because the lands would be too expensive, but it still just stalls the game forever. You're playing a bunch of enchantments. Most of them make your opponent sacrifice creatures or put a lot of permanents on your side of the board. You're gaining life, you're stalling the game, and then you play Doom Foretold, which makes your opponent keep on sacrificing stuff.
I just love drawing value out of useless permanents, and that's exactly what that
you're
does.
just dirtling for forever.
Right, like in Theros Draft or something, if someone says, all right, Omen of the Sun, why is this an enchantment? And this could easily be an instant, but if it was an instant, you couldn't sacrifice it to Doom Foretold.
Exactly. So you just always have fodder for your Doom Foretold while your opponent starts gradually running out of cards, which again eventually gives you the crazy game-ending advantage of gaining 2 life, having them lose 2 life, drawing a card and getting a 2/2 knight with which you can embarrass them for 10 turns with.
If you miss like old school Magic where you grind out a single card, I think this deck is for you because, I mean, yeah, as you said, the game-ending advantage of drawing a card.
If you like playing against someone at an FNM and then them avoiding you the rest of the evening, this is the deck you want to bring.
Actually, I think this next deck is the deck that is closest to a real Pioneer deck.
Okay.
It's mono green Stompy.
That is kind of a real Pioneer deck.
Kind of. At least I remember, like, it has kind of gone downhill a bit, and this copy of the deck is kind of missing the most, or one of the strongest cards in the deck, which is the Great Henge.
Oh yeah, but that's when Commander took that one away from us, from budget players.
Yeah, the Great Henge is like 20 to 30 euros a pop, I think. So we're not playing that one, but instead we're playing big beefy creatures.
Yay!
You got a bit of new card draw in Garrick's Harbinger.
Okay.
Which, when it hits an opponent, you get to look at the top act cards of your library, select a creature, put it into your hand.
Yeah, which is really hard because these decks usually don't have any card advantage. So you have all your Llanowar elves to be able to power out your powerful cards earlier, but then if they deal with your big beater that you pulled out 2 turns early, then you don't really have any way to refuel.
Yeah.
So that's really good.
Yeah, also it has hexproof from black, so
Fatal Push.
at least one way to, kind of make sure that your card advantage comes through. Also, one of the most fun cards in that deck is Aspect of Hydra. It's the one that gives +X/+X for the devotion to green.
Oh yeah!
Aspect of Hydra into Galta is like one of the most fun combos ever because it feels like you're playing Dark Ritual in green.
Oh yeah!
So yeah, this deck, really fun. Not as powerful since you're missing the Great Henge and also Nykthos.
Yeah. Also, one of the problems with that deck right now is the metagame in Pioneer is super combo focused. And this doesn't deal with the combos, but if your opponent stumbles once...
You Aspect of Hydra them.
Yeah.
Aspect of Hydra coming in clutch in those matchups because it does like speed up your kill so much. But yeah, really fun deck. I can only recommend trying it out.
Speaking of decks that are really good against the meta, if you feel like playing Legacy, but you're finding the economy of kebab decks to be hurting your wallet a bit too much recently, this is the closest you get to playing Legacy for cheap. This deck, without shipping, is less than 15 euro.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's mono blue Snow Delver, and it really does make you feel like you're playing Legacy because nothing costs more than 2 in your deck. Everything costs 1.
That's probably true for values in euro and mana costs.
Yeah, well, the only things that cost 2 is you're playing 4 Suspicious Stowaway and 4 Unsubstantiate, which is what I want to bring up. Okay, a lot of combo decks can't deal with 1 counter spell plus backed up pressure.
Yeah.
But when you're playing against decks that can just recast their crazy powerful spell and can block your creatures, Unsubstantiate and Censor aren't the best.
It's not the best permission.
You're not playing enough wizards, so you can't play Wizard's Retort. You're not playing enough flying creatures for like any of the good counter spells, so your permission is lacking. But you're playing a bunch of Snowlands, so you get to play Ascendant Spirit. You do get to play the classic Curious Obsession, which everyone remembers the mono blue deck of Standard.
I hated it.
If you just want to play some beaters, kind of beat down your opponent, and then counter their key spells and feel really clever, this deck is good, plus the sideboard is insane.
I also like that Ascendant Spirit is suddenly seeing play in a like Delver tempo strategy, because usually the powered versions of those it doesn't make the cut because you have better threats in other colors. In red, you have Ragavan, Young Pyromancer, Dreadhorde Arcanist, those kinds of threats. But yeah, I mean, if you want to stick one beater, put Curious Obsession on it and then win with it.
And play Protect the Monarch kind of thing. Yeah,
Ascendant Spirit is probably a good choice there.
Yeah, and your sideboard against the combo decks, the 2 main decks right now are the Lotus Field combo deck and the Jeskai Ascendancy combo deck, and playing 3 Mystical Dispute and 2 Other Gusts in your sideboard, plus Narset Part of Veils, seems like it's really, really hard for them to win.
As always, it's always the magic formula. I feel like I say this every time I ever discuss combo decks. You just combine pressure and disruption, and then you probably have a favorable matchup. You won't win every game against combo, but you will have a good game plan.
But if you go against Stumpy with this, I'm sorry. It's not even... In that case, it's even better to have the 1,000 land deck. Anyways, those were 5 of the most interesting Pioneer decks we could find under 50 euro. If you have any other lists you really like, you've been playing with, and you want to share with anyone watching this video and scrolling down in the comments, please post them below. And
share your combination of 1,000 basic lands in the comments below. Do you go for the classic 700, 250, 50 split, or do you play something else?
Yeah, do you play an equal mix of each? Do you play Waste? Who knows? We want to find out.
Actually, Wastes probably don't make the cut because that would raise the price too much. But
yeah, Wastes are rare. All right, well, go through your bargain bin for your basics. In the meantime, please sub if you're not subbed yet. Remember, Russo Brothers. But we'll see you guys next week in Paper Pioneer.